Well. RAMKABIR everyone. આજે આપનું સેકન્ડ ભક્ત મિલન છે. એમાં આપને ભેગા થયા છે. And I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be in English, right? What I'm doing. It is for the young kids, so you can understand. And I completely messed it up. No, I didn't. There's no way I can forget you. So today we are gathered here for second Bhakta Milan. As we learned last time, what is our traditions, how did it started, how it was emerged, and it came to the place where we are. It was about 600 years ago. And I was just playing the videos, and as you can see, we were recapping a little bit. We will learn more about it. But today's session is more about what is next. You got it. So today, we are gathering for our second Bhakti Milan. And we will look at it today. The second step. Uda Bhakt Parampara, or Uda Bhakta traditions, establishment. And how we all it started. And how it all became together, kind of grew within us, an organic growth. We will look at today, or we will highlight today, organic growth of Uda Bhakta Samaj. That's who we are. Or we can say our birthday. If it's our birthday, and if we are called Uda, which is last time we learned, awaken, also can be called Uda Day. So let's begin with why we are gathered today. So obviously, we're going to learn an establishment of Uda Bhakta Parampara, or Uda Bhakta traditions. So let's recap what we learned last time. Gina, please.
RAMKABIR, Badane Mara RAMKABIR. As Jaipai said, welcome to our second meeting for Youth Bhakt Milan. I wanted to do a quick recap about what we learned last time so we can keep continuity of our meetings. So last time we talked about the reasons and the need for this platform. Basically, we are a migrating Samaj and our next generations are not fluent in Gujarati. So this platform will be a place for them to come learn about our Samaj in English and also to interact with each other and to get to know each other. So I introduced the concept of the 5 whys last time. How we can keep asking the question why multiple times to learn our true motivations and to know our intentions behind everything we do. Perhaps even to talk ourselves out of our excuses, because sometimes we have excuses. So if we ask this question enough, we can talk ourselves out of our excuses. This questioning method will also keep you more mindful and make you an active participant in your own life. So you don't blindly follow something simply because you see other people doing it. As far as this platform goes, I also told you about my background and my reasons for having this platform, and also why English will be the main language. Most importantly, I asked everyone if they truly knew what it meant to be a Uda Bhagat, and if you would be able to have a conversation with someone about it. If someone came up to you and says, "Who are you?" and you say, "I'm a Bhagat," would you be able to answer them, what does that mean to you? We also talked about the origins of our greeting, right? RAMKABIR. In case you missed our last meeting, I can briefly tell you that this 5-syllable name is called the Panchakshari Naam, RAMKABIR, was first said by Prince Chatur Singh of Jaisalmer, whom we now know as Jivanji Maharaj, when he met Kabirji in Kabirwad. At this time, Prince Chatur Singh saw Ram in Kabirji and realized that they are one. There is absolutely no difference between him and the Ram residing in his soul. This is also the reason why we write RAMKABIR as one word. Did anyone take notes last time? And did you discuss what you heard at the meeting with your family? Even today, I'm encouraging everyone to get a piece of paper, I have mine, and something to write with. Sometimes repetition of material helps you remember it better. So write it down, revisit it another day. In this case, understanding our Samaj's history and traditions will actually help you feel more comfortable participating in our Samaj events and having more meaningful discussions. At the last meeting, I also remember asking everyone if you truly know yourselves. So do you know yourself? Did you work on that? And the history of our Samaj and of our ancestors. Yes, I did ask a lot of self-exploratory questions to get everyone thinking last time. So now I want to invite Jai back to introduce, he already introduced today's topic, but he's going to tell us his why. Why this platform and why does he actively participate in all of our Samaj's events? So Jai, can you share a few words?
You got it, Joe. So, my whys are very simple. And many of us, we have the same whys. And we share those whys. And it started a long time ago. And I wanted to understand our way of worship, our way of thinking, and our way of life. And I found it was different than any other places that I looked at it or I've been around. And it's always made me think why we are different. It started with why. Why we do the things the way we do. How we do things and what we do things. It reminded me a great book from, I probably think many of you probably heard his name, Simon Sinek. And he came up with this concept, why, how, and what. It's very popular on TED Talks. And you can find it probably has, last time I checked, was 15 million plus views on it. I want you to, if you can find the book called Start With Why, or at least give an attempt on a YouTube with Simon Sinek TED Talks. And it was similar experience that I was going through. What a coincidence, right? So I thought I wasn't alone. There are many people like me. And I'm sure you are not alone. You have the same questions. You know why? Like we said in our introduction last time, we are migrating society. We migrated from India, and there have been time, we were disconnected a little bit. But now we're connected. So my why started with curiosity. Don't let it die. It was very late age I started exploring. Why started when I was 20, 25. I started exploring when I was 30, 38. So it's okay. If you're late, it's still okay. You still have a why. Do not let your why die. My why started for one curiosity. I wanted to understand. And I wanted to do with understanding. Bhakti with understanding. If we do not do bhakti with understanding, or things we do without understanding, it's become mechanicals. And mechanical stuff doesn't last long. It's just on surface. So I started exploring. I was lucky enough to find resources. I learned from them. But I had to seek I had to seek my why help. And I seeked, and I found my wise answers. So I learned with why. I wanted to understand why we do kirtans in our events, why we do garba in our events, and why we do artis in our event, the way we do artis. No rituals, very simple. What was it? What made us different? Now I understood. We will explore these thoughts in many other sessions later on in details. But again, it started with why, and it started with curiosity. Why, how, and what. It was organic process within me, inside out, rather than outside in. What, how, and why. So it was my curiosity that led me. And what I learned was an amazing thing. How our structure with 4 substances that we're going to review today, 4 substances or 4 pillars, you can call it 4 pillars, that helped me develop, or that helps me develop as a better human being with great moral and ethical qualities. Our Samaj, or our traditions, it is kind of unique to mostly our friends in the Hindu community or Indian community. Leading up to that, I also wanted to know my identity. As Jinal mentioned her identity last time, I wanted to understand who I am. When I say I'm Uda Bhakt, what does that mean? Come on, just like any other thing, right? You meet your friend, he'll say, I am so and so, and but what is the difference between, what is the difference between me and him? In a way of workshop, I found out when I fill out an application in America, I have to do checkbox. I'm Asian Indian, or I'm Asian. I found out when I meet our Indian community, I say I am from Gujarat. When I meet our Gujarati community, I say I'm Uda. But it doesn't change. Even if I wanted to change that, I'm Uda, I couldn't change. It's part of my DNA. How can I change my DNA? So I wanted to know my DNA. And that's the curiosity that led me to Uda Bhakta Parampara. And I was fortunate enough to find resources. And let me tell you, even if we share the same whys, you are fortunate enough. You have lots of resources. And we are in this platform are one of the resources that can attempt to get your answer for your whys. My whys started with understanding. I wanted to do bhakti with understanding. My whys were to find out my own identity, who I am, who do I belong to, and I belong to Uda Bhakt Parampara, Awakened Society, RAMKABIR. I would invite Jinal to give us today's topic, and she's going to explore us today into area that how did Jivanji Maharaj establish RAMKABIR Parampara. My young friends, please do listen to it very nicely, calmly, carefully. It is a foundation of our Parampara. And our Parampara is dialogue based. As you learned last time, it was dialogue between Chatur Singh and Kabir Sahib. And this time we're going to learn was a dialogue between Sadguru Jivanji Maharaj and Gopal Das Ji. Our Parampara or our tradition is dialogue based. And that's exactly what we are doing on this platform. So Gino, take over, beta.
All right, so I'm back, but look what I have. Can you see? I have that book, and we didn't even talk about this, and this is one of the last books that I read maybe a few months ago. So it's pretty cool that we all are thinking similarly, I think. So Joybai, thank you for your why, because it's very inspiring. And then an introduction of Uda Day, right? Today, I'm going to talk about the establishment of our Uda Bhakt Samaj. And that really is our Bhakt Samaj's birthday. So we're also trying to call it Uda Day. So to truly understand the establishment of our Samaj, we have to go back about 600 years to the time of Kabir Sahib. The origins of our Samaj lies in the teachings of Kabirji. So my young friend from last meeting who asked, were Kabir Sahib and Jivanji Maharaj friends? Well, I hope you're here today, because get ready. You're going to hear life stories of both of these amazing people and how they are connected. So we're going to hear about Kabirji and Jivanji Maharaj and how they are connected. So I'm going to first start with Kabirji. So who was Kabirji? He was a famous saint and a poet who had a big influence in both the Bhakti and the Sufi movements in India. He was born at the end of the 14th century and was alive even after the 15th century. So he had a pretty long life. There are many folk tales about his birth and his upbringing, but nothing is certain. One of these is that he was born to a widowed Brahmin woman who left him floating in a basket in a pool of water somewhere to avoid social stigma and disgrace. This is when a Muslim weaver couple found him and named him Kabir and raised him. Weavers at that time were considered to be of a lower caste in India, so he was not allowed to read or write. However, Kabir was very intelligent. He helped his parents in weaving cloth, and as he grew older, he always questioned things. He always was curious. He always wanted to know and learn new things. Not only that, he was also very generous and very simple in nature. So let's think back 600 years, right? Indian society at that time was very backward. People focused a lot on the caste system, the religion, and the status of high or low. So my younger friends, if you don't know the caste system, it's very prevalent in India, and it unfortunately categorizes people's status in society. And I honestly feel it's been misinterpreted for many years. Not only that, the Hindus and Muslims found each other's religion as inferior. There was absolutely no religious tolerance, and each felt that their religion was superior. And to be honest, if you think about it, I don't think India has changed much. 600 years later, I think it's still facing similar issues as far as religious tolerance goes, and social status of using the caste system. So Kabir, from a very young age, noticed that and understood the religious and societal problems of the society. He was interested in acquiring knowledge through satsang and work as a weaver. He was very sympathetic and distributed majority of his earnings to the poor and the needy. He noticed that the society was full of superstitions. He wanted to rise above all of that. He wanted to go beyond that and achieve spiritual knowledge, which he knew himself that would give a new direction to the society. So at that time, one had to have a guru to acquire such spiritual knowledge. So how did Kabir acquire his spiritual knowledge and become a Vaishnav saint? Do you remember that he was raised by a Muslim couple? So how did he become a Vaishnav saint? He chose Swami Ramanand as his guru. At first, it was in secrecy. And this happened on the banks of Ganga River when Ramanand accidentally stepped on him and said the words Ram Ram. Kabir took this guru mantra and started chanting Ram Ram. Remember that he was a Muslim boy, and chanting Ram Ram, this would have created so many problems in the society of that time. And I'm sure it would have created problems even today. Whenever he was asked who taught him this, he would always say Swami Ramanand's name. Swami Ramanand actually had no idea this was happening. So when Ramanand actually learned of this, he was impressed and accepted Kabir as his student. There were so many protests against Ramanand for making Kabir, a Muslim boy, his student. But he had logical replies that were sufficient to quiet down all these protests from the Hindu Brahmins. Swami Ramanand believed in Kabir because he was a grateful student and he was devoted to acquiring knowledge from him. So Kabir used to spend most of his time singing devotional songs to God, which he composed himself. During that time, India was going through poor times in all the ways, including political, sociological, and religious aspects. So as I said already, caste differentiation was high. Religious superstitions had people scared. People were just afraid, and people were intolerant of each other. No one wanted to know or truly understand the real purpose, the principles, or the religion of that time. Everyone was lost. Kabir started to oppose all of this. He criticized the society, and he criticized not only Hinduism, but he also criticized Islam with his words and his poetry. And his words and his poetry were sung in the streets of Kashi. If you didn't know, Kashi was at that time the center of knowledge. All the priests and the Muslim mullahs started opposing him and calling him irreligious. Kabir's disciples, who are now known as Kabirpanthis, used to gather at one place for intellectual discussions. And this is where discussions, part of our Samaj, comes in from. Discussions are when everything gets figured out. Kabir's principles were simple. His basic principle was that of humanity and universal brotherhood. He taught people to love each other. So you may have heard one of his sakhis. I'm just going to attempt to sing it. Let's see if I can do this. Pothi pad par jug muva, pandit bayana koi, dai akshar prem ka, pade so pandit hoy. Pretty much means he said that it is not that by studying Vedas and Purans only that a person becomes learned. A learned man is one who knew the meaning of love. He was a firm believer of speaking the truth. He worshipped only one God, the Nirgun Nirakar God. So that is the formless God. And according to Kabir, God resides only in the heart of someone who is pure and is filled with truthfulness. A lot of these things that I'm saying are actually mostly from Kabir's own words, from his sakhis. I'm not going to say all his sakhis today. I'm just giving you the basic English of his beliefs. So we know that where Jivanji Maharaj got his inspiration from. He placed Guru at the highest place and believed that a Guru is needed to acquire knowledge and salvation. He also believed that happiness lies in the endless worship of God as we detach from materialism. With the help of his self-composed poems and stanzas, Kabir changed the mindsets of people, especially the villagers and the low caste people. He gave them self-confidence to face the society, especially against the Brahmins and the Muslims. So he actually rose people up. he gave them confidence. The sharp thoughts of Kabir continued to spread awareness in the society. As we know already, Kabirji didn't know how to read or write, so all of his words were later collected by his disciples in a collection called the Bijak. During his life, he's known to have traveled all over spreading his wisdom. On one of his trips to Gujarat, he met, like the story from last time, he met Prince Chatur Singh of Jaisalmer, which led to a very important conversation and the first utterance of the word RAMKABIR. This is when the RAMKABIR tradition under Jnaniji started. Several generations down in this very Guru Parampara also comes Guru Gopal Das Ji, who became the Guru of Jivanji Maharaj. You see, the fundamentals of our Udabak Samaj are from Kabir Sahib. And that is how Jivanji Maharaj and Kabir Sahib are connected. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Jivanji Maharaj. And I'm going to start with a little Saki. It says, Ramanandi Sampradaya mein Uda Jivan Das Kul Karma Karni Taji Kari Ram Charan Ki Aas. Which means in Ramanand's community, there comes Uda Jivan Das, sacrificing his family and his needs to fulfill his devotion to Lord Ram. So let's continue with the story of Jivanji Maharaj. Now that we know that Kabirji was inspiration, we'll continue how Jivanji Maharaj got inspired by the Kabir tradition. Okay, so Jivanji Maharaj came into the Kabir tradition by the ceremony of Kanti Diksha, which was offered to him by Guru Gopal Das Ji, who was a Kabir follower living in the district of Choranda, Gujarat. Not much is known about his childhood, except that his birthplace was Karamsad, Gujarat, and he was born in an Amin family of Leva Patidar. His journey of self-discovery started at a very young age of 11 when he lost both of his parents. He left his village and joined a group of saints in hopes of beginning a new life. In his young age, just like Kabirji, he was inspired to learn. He was inspired to learn about his spirituality. He traveled with a group of saints through Gujarat, and by the time he was 16, he met a Kabir follower, and this is Saint Gopal Das Ji in Keslu. But at this time, he was still undecided on his path. But this meeting made him so curious, and many questions rose in his mind. He started to look within himself for the answers. In his journey, he met an old man named Gopal Das, not the same as his guru. He met an old man named Gopal Das from Sahapura, who said that he should turn around. He should go back and visit Guru Gopal Das Ji of the RAMKABIR tradition if he actually wanted to understand religion, God, and spirituality in its true essence. So he decided to travel to Choranda to meet this guru. There, they had an intense conversation. So Jaibai was talking about this conversation. Guru Gopal Das Ji and Jivanji Maharaj at this point had this very intense conversation on many topics, and this cleared the doubts in his mind. So he decided to become Guru Gopal Das Ji's disciple on the full moon day in autumn, which we called Sharad Purnima. During this conversation, a lot of questions were answered, including the difference between Shagun Bhakti and Nirgun Bhakti. So Shagun Bhakti is praying to a form God, like praying to Bhagwan Ram or Bhagwan Krishna. Nirgun Bhakti is formless. So during this conversation, they figured out a path of going from Shagun Bhakti to Nirgun Bhakti. And they also discussed another type of bhakti, which is Omkar Bhakti and Nirankar Bhakti, and how to go towards Nirankar Bhakti and not actually worry about all the ritualistic traditions that are part of Omkar Bhakti. So he spent the next 4 years learning about spirituality in Choranda with his guru. Jivanji Maharaj's journey continued, and he ended up traveling to Chanderia in Rajasthan with his guru. After which, they both went in separate directions. When Guru Gopal Das Ji went to Swadham, Jivanji Maharaj traveled to Ujjain for his guru's death ceremony. And after that, he went to Jagannath Puri, to Chitrakoot, to Kashi, to Ayodhya, and all the way up to Dantnagar in Himalayas. And when he reached Dantnagar in the Himalayas, this is where he sat down for a deep meditation, and he felt eternal peace. I call this self-reflection. He looked within himself during this time and found his true purpose. In all of his travels, he had seen the poor conditions under which people had lived, and he decided he wanted to help those people. This is when he realized that this was what he wanted to do. He listened to his inner voice, and with a new enthusiasm for life, he left the Himalayas for Vrindavan. He met so many people in his travels back, including one person named Narandas Khatri, who actually, after his conversation with Jivanji Maharaj, he decided to leave his home. He took his family and he said bye-bye to his home, and he decided to join Jivanji Maharaj in his journey back to Gujarat. When he was back in Chanderia, which is in Rajasthan, where he lived earlier, he had many more conversations with other people there. And guess what happened? More families decided that they wanted to join him in this journey back to Shahpura. And this is how people from all over came together and joined Jivanji Maharaj to form what we know as the Bhakt RAMKABIR Parampara. The whole community pledged to begin a new life and to remember that day in history, that Sharad Punam night, as the day when all the people from all communities, caste, classes united to form a new individual identity known as Bhakt. And that Sharad Purnima night was when Guru Gopal Das Ji and Jivanji Maharaj had that conversation. So that was the very first night that decided the fate of this community, our Bhakt tradition. This group, our ancestors, no longer feared the Brahmins and priests. Jivanji Maharaj gave the entire community a life that was free of sacrificial practices, which we now know as karmakand. His thoughts were revolutionary for that time, and just like Kabirji, he helped regain everybody's consciousness and self-confidence. He gave his followers the 4 Bhakti Patarats, what Jaibai called the 4 pillars, as a way to ignore society's blind faith, superstitions, and hypocrisy. These 4 devotional substances were Tilak, Tulsi, Ramnam, and Sant Sangat, and they were meant to be used as a tool to finding spirituality. He also told all of his followers to give up everything that would lead to superstitions. And this is where his 14 no-nos come from. We will likely not get into this today, but it's definitely a topic for next time. Today we will focus more on the 4 pillars. His message was loud and simple, just like Kabirji. So it was easy for common people to understand, and more people began to join. He also had a strong principle that no one shall ever be greedy about money or property. And he also vowed that he will never ask for any favors for his own livelihood in return for all the blessings that he bestows upon his followers. So he farmed, and he encouraged others to do the same to support themselves. He didn't believe in temples or priests. What is amazing at that is that Jivanji Maharaj eliminated race and gender inequalities and gave equal rights to all Bhakts. Think of how revolutionary his thoughts were. And this was almost 400 years ago. Whether it is a social, a religious, or a family matter, there is no distinction between a man and a woman. Anyone from our community can carry out any ceremony. You see, this lifestyle and the formation of Bhakt Samaj and its traditions did not happen overnight. It also did not survive so many years without an effort. Jivanji Maharaj had several sons and many followers who decided to spread his word among people, and they kept his tradition alive. And their followers and our ancestors kept this tradition alive. So it is our duty to know all of this and to teach our kids. And to all of us, this is our history. We should know where we come from, right? It is all of our responsibility to know this history and pass it down to our future generations, as our ancestors have done the same for us. Historically, this was done mostly by Kirtan Bhakti. So if you hear our kirtans and carefully listen to all the words and understand the words, they keep reminding us of what we should do. I believe a lot of these kirtans that I hear definitely talk about the Char Padarats. Remember, our ancestors were not book smart or literate and may not have known how to read or write, so they passed down our traditions through kirtans, which they sang. The best way to learn something is really to read the words. So whenever you practice any kirtan bhakti, just read through the words and follow it and learn to and get to understand it. Like Jai said, understand it and try to get to its deeper meaning. So, all right, I'm going to pass it on to Jai if you want to continue.
Will do, Gino. It was wonderful. It was short, and on a very short summary, he explained us to how it all started and how it all Uda Bhakta Parampara was established. And she also talked about 4 substance or 4 char pradarth, and probably you heard that a lot, char pradarth, and we will cover that. What are the 4 substance and or 4 pillars or char pradarth, and how they help us to develop a better human being, and like I said before, to gain moral, ethical values and spiritual values, and makes you better human being. It's simple, and that's what revolution that Jivanji Maharaj had done. So now I have Abhi with me, and who doesn't know him, right? I mean, we all seen him in many of the events, hosting for us and doing just wonderful work and unconditional time. I mean, I have seen him during his time in California while he was working and and making videos for us. So we as when we watch at home, so it connects the 2 videos to the 1 videos. So Abhi has done those work, and I would like to hear from Abhi. What are his perspective on Uda Bhakta Samaj, and how did he come to know, and what he found that made him connected to the society and our community, and that made him work, doing this wonderful work. So Abhi, floor is on, buddy. It's yours. RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Badhane Mara taraf na RAMKABIR. To all the youths especially. It's been a very, very special time for us, all of us, especially with Sharad Purnima, and then now that Diwali is coming, Dashera just gone. So to all of you, I know you're in a very, very cheerful mood, and especially to all the youths who are excited, and they have had their first session with Jai and Gino last month. So it's very, very exciting for me as well to get this as an opportunity to be part of this. My journey, if you know, I would say, in my history of relevance to the Samaj, it's significantly new, at least when it comes to consciously living and applying all that I've learned. And the only thing I may say is I myself am on the quest of ultimate truth, same as all of you. Hence, don't be discouraged. At the least, learn as much as you can, question everything as possible, and then move forward with as much enthusiasm as possible. So today we will go over the 4 main essentials of RAMKABIR Dharma. As Jinal Ben and Jai mentioned, the idea is Tulsi Kanti, Tilak, Gopi Chandan, Ram Nam, and Satsang, the four essentials of RAMKABIR Dharma. Tulsi Kanti. Tulsi Kanti was Lord Sri Krishna's favorite was Vrinda. Vrinda means Tulsi. We wear this similarly as an identity of a Bhakt. With the time, tradition says that we had kyaras, Tulsi kyaras in every RAMKABIR household that there was. We see Tulsi as an element of purity. Tulsi is not just as a reminder of something that frees us from our sin, but also stops us from doing more karmas. We wear it as a reminder to tell us as our day-to-day thing. Even from an Ayurvedic standpoint of view, it is known to purify things as it has most benign qualities of all the herbs. Tulsi is something that is also, as a reminder, it is said that if you cannot offer much to God, at least offer a leaf of Tulsi to God, and God will take it as something that has come from a pure heart and a pure mind to them. Now, to kids, a lot of you, I've also grown up knowing Tulsi and understanding that every now and then when mom says, bring Tulsi to the mandir, I think that one of the first things I would do is not just bring it, but bring extra so I myself can have some. But Tulsi, as we know, has also good for your cough and small things, but also tastes good. It's a mouth freshener. Going forward to the second essential pillar of RAMKABIR, Tilak or Gopi Chandan. Gopi Chandan is the clay that is made from the pond Gopi Chandan in Dwarka, where gopis bathed as well as the last rites of God were performed. Hence, it has the presence of God himself in it. This is also an identity of a Bhagat. Tilak is placed between the brows of the forehead, a place known for immense power and piety. In RAMKABIR though, we place it not just on the forehead, but all of our senses to purify and remind ourselves that purity while performing our daily tasks. We put it on all the Jnanendriyas. As God is Shashwat, Shashwat meaning something that is eternal, so is the Tilak. Something even women wear after being widowed because it represents their journey with the eternal forever and not just in the limited mortal realm. Moving on to something that is the third pillar of RAMKABIR, Ram Nam. Something that is soothing to the heart and the mind just by listening to it. It was given to us by Kabir Sahib and Jivanji Maharaj. Jivanji Maharaj gave us the differentiation of Ram by representing that the Ram is our soul and Kabir the body. In the unison with God, with our mind, body and soul, RAMKABIR is not a jap or a mantra. Contrary to belief, when we think of any expression to God or greeting, we always think that, oh, that's a mantra, that's a jap, that's something we do. No, it's just a naam. Doesn't require a ritual to perform, nor there is secrecy around it. It doesn't revolve around any aspects of karmakand or ritualism. Ram Nam as RAMKABIR is something that is considered to anybody and everybody can take it. Jinal Ben mentioned that Kabir sees that a person who has Ram or God within them, they're only capable of having this is because they come from a pure mindset. But that doesn't mean that any individual who has not acknowledged or realized the God within them is not pure. It's just few people are certain steps on the staircase above, or few people are below on the staircase, and we all are part of the similar journey. Now, coming to talk about, we've talked about all earlier, 3 of the 4 main elements of RAMKABIR. But without this one, it would be incomplete. This element is satsang. Satsang is something that, as in order to transform our understanding into fruition, one needs to surround themselves with individuals with similarly intellectually pure mindset and willingness to apply these practices. You cannot just take knowledge and just sit on it and expect anything to come out of the blue. that isn't feasible. You want to be able to take that and interact with individuals who value that at the same time in a spiritual journey, who will also support you and encourage you to become a better version of yourself throughout this. Satsang in RAMKABIR, they say there is no Tirth Yatras that exist, only the idea and the practice of satsang. No such requirements are mandatory to sit together or even do bhajans. In fact, it's just more of imbibing great thoughts and talking it out there in the world by practicing them. The basis of satsang is prem, bhakti, and prakash. Now, we hear this in many aspects of many religious beings that, hey, there has to be love, there has to be bhakti, and the idea of prakash, you're not so sure of. But prem and bhakti, prem, the idea of love, of selfless love. One, similar to all the devotees, gopis, and of the mother to their child. Selfless love, bhakti without any expectation of any kind of fruit, or even asking God, trust me, I've been at your age, and it's like, God, please make me, pass this particular exam, or make sure that, I do well in the sports tomorrow. All these things, but it's without any expectation. That's bhakti. Prakash. Prakash is the understanding by questioning every aspect of bhakti and the process rather than blindly following it. Kabir Sahib has told us that in RAMKABIR, we do not intend that, hey, this has been a revelation by God to me, and all I need you to do is take my word for granted and absolutely only believe only that thing. No, he says, this is something I'm sharing as my revelations, but feel free to question it intellectually, understand it, practice it, and then imbibe it in your own life. This is the aspect of bhakti, of prakash, that leads to enlightenment. To all of you, all I want to share is youth is a time period when you want to learn more things, and when you want to, you want to question and find your own self. In the process of finding your own self, you have to go through tough times. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable, even if it goes against the values of something that, hey, like, my parents have told me to do this, and I have to do this. But I'm sure your parents love you enough to know that if you intellectually question something with love and with the right mindset, they would be willing to explain to you the depths of where your journey, you can find your own self. Now, I would like to hand over the mic to Jaibai, and then we can move forward. RAMKABIR to everybody.
Well, Avi, it was wonderful to hear from you. And your explanation why the 4 pillars or 4 essentials or 4 substance or char pradarth, however we call. I just said, without 4 pillars, structure doesn't exist. Without 4 tires, car doesn't exist, or car doesn't move forward. So it's very similar in life. What Jivanji Maharaj has given us in basic form, simplest form, is 4 substance or 4 essentials to live our life ritual free and evolve us to what is called Niranjana Bhakti. So having said that, I'm going to open up now to the question and answers. If anybody has a question and answer, we have panelists here, and we will open up to any question that anybody has, and you can unmute and ask the question, or you can do it in chat, however you perform. But before I do to the question and answer, I would like to ask one thing. If you have noticed something today, while I was, in a Bhakta Milan, I was playing some videos, and that was a logo that probably you haven't seen it for a while. So I just want to ask if anybody noticed that. Okay, so if anybody has a question, please ask. So today's session, we wanted to explore on an introductory level why and how RAMKABIR was established. So whys were my whys, and also there were some Jivanji Maharaj whys. And he had, like Jinal said, it was an intense conversation between him and Guru Gopal Das Ji. And it lasted several days. And before he reached the full moon, what we call today is Sarat Purnima. And that's when he established RAMKABIR Parampara after fully convinced, or I rather say, fully intellectually convinced. And he established, and he has given us a great parampara that we follow today. And it lasted 400 years, and it's been on for 400 years. And it is only because we are intellectually convinced people that this is the way that our inner development is possible. So the floor is open. If anybody has a question, ask. I see question. When was RAMKABIR first established? And it's questions from either Adi or Jayraj.
So I can take that. So it was part of the story, right? So RAMKABIR was a word, a 5-syllable word that was first said when Prince Chatur Singh met with Kabirji and realized that that he saw. Oh, I'm blanking out. That he saw Ram and Kabir as one, and that you have to become as pure as water to see that. So that's when that first was established. So that was 600 years ago. That interaction was about 600 years ago.
So Abhi and Jayraj had both of them had the same questions. So Abhi and Jayraj, I think we covered last time. So it was established about 600 years ago when Chatur Singh, or what we know as a Yogi Maharaj, so when he had a series of questions and his questions were answered, then the first utterer, like Jinal said today, was RAMKABIR, where form and non-form, or body and soul, meet, and you cannot separate them. The unity of the soul and body, or soul meaning God, and a body, you. So that was firstly he uttered the word RAMKABIR. So probably 600 years ago.
Okay, Jay, if I may, I was gonna say to all the youths here, one of the most amazing things about you guys, it's also a good thing and also interesting, I would say, is because you guys are very, very disciplined. This was not any of us when we were growing up. Hence, I encourage some enthusiasm, a little bit of mischievousness. Please come on the video, please ask us questions, and feel free to ask us any questions, and we'll do our best to answer it the best as possible. So, please don't hesitate. We do not bite, and nor we take your chocolates from the video. So please feel free to come on.
I'll take the next one. It's from Swati. What is the book that you mentioned? Swati is start with why, and I'll text here in a group. It's by Simon Sinek. You can also find him on YouTube, and he has a text, TED Talk videos. He explains in a corporate level. He explains why certain companies does better than others and what they do differently, and it's also he mentions why and the process, inner process, why, how, and what. So yeah, it's a wonderful book, and also Jinal has it, so you can point it to you again. But I'll post it in a chat so you can get it.
Yep. So I found it's actually a business book, but what I found interesting is that you can read any book and you can take lessons out of it. When I was reading this book, I was actually thinking about Youth Bhakt Milan the entire time I was reading that book. And I was applying everything that I got from that book and understanding the lessons as part of this platform itself. I will add the book's name in the chat for you as well.
Anybody? Also questions? I mean, we still have a few minutes. We usually like to keep it between 8 and 9 Eastern time, but it's okay. If you have questions, feel free to ask. And we want to hear from you, hear from everyone actually. So if you have a question, please ask. And how would you like us to do differently? I know there has been we was late communication. We understood there was a Garba and we want to move it to 1 week later, but we will keep it on a third Sunday next time. And now we have a WhatsApp chat, and so we can fully update our upcoming events, even topics, and we can ask questions. So we actually sent it out in a WhatsApp chat, different groups. But if it's not, we will still circulate one more time, so you can join with us on WhatsApp and we can communicate better.
Jaipa, is there a way to share that WhatsApp chat link in the chat here?
I can, definitely I can.
So if people can just click directly, they can add to our group.
Yeah, if they're connected to the desktop, yeah. Or if not,
gotcha.
Yeah, if not, they can through the phone. Yeah, if the people who are connected to the phone, they can definitely join. Yeah. So with that, if nobody has a question, how can I forget one of my favorite person in the world? Nurse Bhai, I would like to hear from you. Please come on and tell us what do you think today, and please enlighten us with your words. How it all started with Jivanji Maharaj and the 4 pillars, so 4 essential or 4 substance or chapradas, and how did it become the structure, and what is different from others than us, please.
Always excited to see youth talking, exploring. When you are talking about the books, the one book that came to my mind is Ignited Minds by Abdul Kalam. I'm telling you, the youth and the ignited minds, it just goes hand in hand. The topic that you are mentioning, Jai, is very, very broad in scope. It may take probably hours and hours and hours to basically explain, but I just want to give you the core of what we have. The core of Kabir Sahib and Jivanji Maharaj is based on only 2 things. One is humanity, and second is equality. Those are the things that were at the heart of both of them. They didn't believe in any caste, creed, anything that will differentiate one human being from the other human being. They were purely based on making human a more perfect human being, a good human being, and treat everybody just equally. That was the premise based on which this whole Kabir Sahib's philosophy came in, and Jivanji Maharaj's philosophy came in. And they were all alone. People liked what they said, and they kind of thought that, hey, these 2 people, they are connecting with us. And lots of people started walking with them. They started following them. And that is how Kabir Sahib had tremendous following at one point. He was followed in the northern part of the India, the middle part of the India, and even the southern part of the India. He traveled across, and he had such a huge following. He also had the patronage from the political powers, the kings. Lived a long life, had tremendous followers, and showed the path to the humanity. And therefore, Jivanji Maharaj was attracted to his philosophy. And Jivanji Maharaj distinguished from Kabir Sahib in one way, and that was that he gave a good structure of 4 pillars, which we talked about very nicely. And with that, he created our Uda Bhakta community, Uda Sabse Juda. So we are different because we strictly follow those 4 padarths. And when we are following those distinct 4 padarths, it distinguishes us, it makes us different from the others. different way of worshipping. And when we say that we do certain things, there is a logical reason for us to do those things, and it can be nicely and easily explained. And therefore, this Uda community is considered to be Udit community, the awakened community. And this awakened community is basically where we are, and the contributions of our forefathers, the contributions of Jivanji Maharaj and their followers is tremendous. And therefore, we can say that we proudly can say that we are Uda Bhakts, and we believe in true bhakti, the unconditional love for God. That's what we believe in. And anything and everything that Jivanji Maharaj has said can be explained, can be easily explained, so that the youth can be empowered, because we definitely want to empower youth. We want to ignite the youth. I mean, that is what I am always looking for. And I'm glad that three of you did a marvelous job today in igniting. I mean, I don't have much comments there, but I mean, if there is any other questions or anything, I will take it. But all the best to all of you. Such a wonderful thing that you have done.
Well, I wouldn't say thank you, Naresh Bhai, because that's not what we do. You know, it's part of our duty, right?
Absolutely.
To serve the community, and that's exactly the unconditional love or unconditional work that you talked about. It. So it's so wonderful to hear from you. So what we will do next is we will conclude today's session, and we would like to hear from you, and so we can better serve our community. And by saying that, it is the organic structure that we want to grow in within US, within English-speaking generation. I can say my whys, but I would like to hear your whys. And so let's hear your whys, and we can work together, or we can talk together, or we can walk together on the same path, and we understand our own identity, like Jinal has discovered, and like also Abhibhai talked about today. His things, and he will go into more detail next time too on his whys, like I did on my whys. So we all want to share and learn from each other. So let's conclude today's session. Jinal, please, beta.
All right, so today we learned a lot. We learned about Kabir Sahib's story. We learned about Jivanji Maharaj's story and the establishment of our Uda Bhakt Samaj, and also the reasons behind why our Samaj was started. We also learned about the Char Padarats, or the 4 pillars that we now know, and how we can use them in our daily lives, in our own journeys, to keep us all connected to our beliefs. We all learn from our own journeys. So I have one last experience to share from my own life. I was helping my daughter with a project for Girl Scouts, and they have this optional award which can be earned every year. It's called My Promise, My Faith pin. And with this, every girl is asked to explore their own faith in their own way with their families. Rightfully so, right? Because we live in this country that promotes freedom of religion, and we're free to practice whatever we choose, and each family can choose how they want to explore this. So this year, my daughter chose the line, "Make the world a better place." So there are a few requirements for this, but one of them was to find quotes by women that exemplifies this line. Make the world a better place can be interpreted in so many different ways, from working to keep our environment clean, or as personal as how to be a better human being. So let me share one of our findings with you, because I think it also applies to this platform and our process, what we're doing here. So the quote we found was by Maya Angelou, who's a famous author, and she said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." So do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Our faith, our teachings, and our parampara is of humanity, of love. Both Jivanji Maharaj and Kabir Sahib believed in the value of the human life and tried to lead people towards its higher purpose, to focus on what's important, the knowledge of you, the knowledge of knowing yourself, your own mind, and most importantly, stepping away from the ritualistic religion that has been practiced for so many generations. They both worked so hard to spread this message and empower the common man. Personally, I am learning a whole lot about our Samaj as I prepare for these meetings. And the more I learn, the more I get drawn to its simplicity. Have you thought about how simple our Samaj is? Why do we complicate our lives unnecessarily? All of our traditions have a reason behind it. And now that you know the reasons of our gurus, what do you think you'll do with this information? Only you can choose if you want to walk down this simple path of our gurus. Only you have this power. Practically, I think you can try to apply the Char Padarats to your life to remind you of being a Udabak. It can be as simple as taking 5 minutes out of your day, maybe in the morning. Maybe you can express some gratefulness for the life, or in the middle of the day, you can sit on your own and you can reflect on yourself and your values. Maybe you want to spend that 5 minutes to add a daily practice of Ram Nam, either singing a kirtan or adding some arti to your life. Or spend that 5 minutes with your family and have a spiritual discussion with them, a meaningful discussion. You may have more than 5 minutes. You can decide how long this daily practice of yours can be. I only suggested 5 minutes because I know people are very busy, but I'm pretty sure everyone can at least find 5 minutes out of their busy lives to do something for themselves, right? You're working on yourself. Whatever practice you decide to add to your life, I want you to do it with intention and do it daily. Again, this is your own journey. You can make it your own. Both Kabir Sahib and Jivanji Maharaj wanted their followers to think before they act and to look within ourselves. They wanted us to make our hearts as pure as water so we too can see God that lives within us. And that, my friends, is also the reason why they showed us this path of bhakti. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. So your challenge for this month, if you choose to accept it, is to continue asking those whys and add a daily practice to your life. And with that final thought, I'd like to conclude our meeting and conclude our Sangat, which is what we're practicing here today, our discussions. Thank you for joining us. Now we can all open up our windows and greet each other with RAMKABIR. So, RAMKABIR.
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 RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR. Sarve santone RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR.
सर्व भक्तों ने राम
RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR.
सर्व भक्तों ने
RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR, आपने November 21st, I think that's what it comes out, November 21st, if I check it correctly. That would be the third Sunday, and that's when we will meet, 8 o'clock. This time we will make sure we send out the link early and early enough so you can schedule your time. So it'll be November 21st, 8 o'clock, and we will meet. So until then, Sarve Bhaktone, RAMKABIR everyone, RAMKABIR.
RAMKABIR. RAMKABIR.